Go back to your fantasy football games, boy. Leave the real strategic work to people who understand business. My name is Daniel Vance. I am 48 years old, and I have been a senior security architect at Secure Grid Solutions in Portland for 4 years. The woman who just dismissed me as if I were a clueless intern is Chloe Miller, 24, fresh out of business school with an expensive Master of Business Administration degree and absolutely zero real-world engineering experience. She also happens to be the daughter of our new Chief Technology Officer, Diana Miller. If you like stories about corporate greed, tech sector politics, and how quiet expertise can dismantle an arrogant executive, you are in the right place. It was 9:45 at night on a rainy Wednesday. I was sitting at my workstation, debugging the final security patches for the database authentication module. Tomorrow was the big client demonstration, and everything had to run flawlessly. The office was quiet, save for the hum of the air conditioning and the distant vacuum cleaner of the cleaning crew. I preferred working late. No meetings about meetings, no slides, just clean code and hot coffee. Chloe walked past my desk in her designer heels, holding a high-end tablet. I could see the reflection of my terminal on her screen as she stopped. "Still here, Daniel?" she asked, her voice dripping with condescension. "Don't you have a life outside of staring at green text?" I did not look up immediately. I finished typing the command to commit the patch, then turned in her direction. "I am just making sure the security gateway does not collapse during the presentation tomorrow," I replied. She glanced at my screen as if trying to decipher ancient hieroglyphics. "Well, maybe you should take a break. Go back to your fantasy football games, boy. Leave the real strategic work to people who understand business." I did not argue. I have never played fantasy football in my life. I spent my free time writing the cryptographic frameworks that kept our entire customer database secure. But trying to explain the difference between a secure key exchange and a spreadsheet to Chloe was a waste of breath. After she walked away, I sat in the quiet office, looking at the code on my monitor. Every security protocol, every encryption algorithm, and every high-throughput gateway that made Secure Grid Solutions a market leader had been designed and written by me. I held 4 pending patents for those core frameworks. The legal documentation was airtight. I had developed these technologies 18 months before Diana Miller was hired as our Chief Technology Officer. I saved my local environment, locked my computer, and packed my bag. As I walked to the elevators, I noticed the lights in the main executive boardroom were still on. Through the glass, I saw Chloe and her mother, Diana, looking at a printout of my patent filings. They did not see me. The elevator doors slid shut, and a cold wave of clarity washed over me. I was not angry. I was simply done. I had carried this startup's technical foundation on my back, only to be spoken down to by someone who could not write a basic loop. I drove home through the Oregon rain, thinking about how we got here. I had joined Secure Grid Solutions 4 years ago when we were a small team of 35 people working out of a converted warehouse. Back then, our founder, Walter Higgins, would sit with us at midnight, eating cold pizza and brainstorming database structures. Walter was a true engineer. He understood the architecture because he had written the prototype himself. But 6 months ago, Walter was diagnosed with stage 3 thyroid cancer. He had to step down immediately to focus on his health. The board of directors brought in Diana Miller, a corporate transition specialist from a major consulting firm, to prepare the company for a massive Series B funding round and a potential buyout. Diana was great at corporate jargon, but her technical understanding was non-existent. She relied entirely on her daughter, Chloe, whom she hired as a senior analyst 1 month ago. Chloe had no technical background, yet she had been attending engineering meetings, giving advice on developer productivity, and suggesting we lay off senior engineers to save money. For weeks, I had seen the writing on the wall. External auditors were suddenly asking for detailed documentation of my proprietary frameworks. My name was being left off emails about product strategy. Yesterday, I overheard Diana telling the human resources director that they needed to secure our core intellectual property assets before finalizing a major corporate reorganization. Now, Chloe's comment about fantasy football made everything clear. They were planning to take my technology, push me out of the way, and claim the glory. I pulled into my apartment parking space and sat in the quiet car, listening to the rain tap against the windshield. It was time to prepare. I went upstairs, opened my personal laptop, and connected to my private server. My patents were filed under my own name, and I had paid the filing fees myself. The licensing agreement to transfer them to SecureGrid had never been signed. Walter's illness had delayed it, and Diana had ignored my request to finalize the terms. My lawyer, Timothy Cole, had warned me to keep my private repository secure. I spent the next 2 hours auditing the access logs of our shared servers. Someone had been copying my source code documentation to an external drive. The user account associated with the transfer belonged to Chloe Miller. The trap was set, but they did not realize who owned the cage. The next morning, I arrived at the office shortly after 8. When I opened my corporate inbox, an email from Diana Miller was waiting. It was sent at 11:47 the previous night. The subject line read, simply Intellectual Property Licensing Agreement. I opened the attached document. In exchange for a one-time payment of $12,000, I was to transfer all rights and interests in my 4 pending patents to SecureGrid Solutions. The contract also promised me a promotion to Distinguished Engineering Advisor. I stared at the document on my screen. The promotion was a joke. It carried no authority, no additional budget, and no direct reports. The payment of $12,000 was insulting. A licensing agreement for a security framework of this scale should have been valued at hundreds of thousands of dollars. The timing of the email told me everything. Diana and Chloe were trying to rush the transfer before the investor presentation on Thursday morning. They wanted the intellectual property secured before they executed their restructuring plan. Around 9 in the morning, the office filled up. Chloe Miller walked past my desk carrying her tablet. She stopped and looked at my monitor, noticing the open document. "Good morning, Daniel," she said, her voice bright and artificial. "I trust you received the email from my mother last night. We are hoping to get those signatures finalized by the end of the day so we can update the technical exhibits for the investors." I turned to face her, keeping my expression neutral. "I am reviewing the terms, Chloe. It is a significant contract, and I need to run it by my attorney before I sign anything." Her smile stiffened, and her eyes went cold. "I do not see why that is necessary, Daniel. It is a standard agreement that every developer signs. The company has supported your work, and this is just a formality to ensure we are all aligned." "The board wants this settled." I kept my voice quiet. The patents were filed before Diana joined the company, and I funded the filings myself. It is not a standard agreement. I need time. Chloe crossed her arms, tapping her shoe. "Well, do not take too long. My mother wants to close this file. The presentation is tomorrow, and we do not have time for unnecessary delays." She walked toward the executive offices. I watched her go, then called Timothy Cole, my attorney. Timothy was a sharp, 55-year-old intellectual property lawyer who had helped me file the patents 3 years ago. He operated a small, highly specialized practice in Portland. I explained the situation, the licensing offer, and Chloe's aggressive push. Timothy listened without interrupting. "Do not sign anything, Daniel," Timothy said with calm authority. "I have reviewed your contract. The intellectual property clause only covers inventions created during your working hours using company equipment. Your security framework was developed on your personal laptop, at home, 18 months before they hired Diana. You paid for the patent filings from your own bank account." Timothy also warned me about another serious issue. Since Diana Miller is the Chief Technology Officer, she owes a fiduciary duty to the company and its shareholders. If she is trying to expropriate intellectual property that she knows is personally owned, she is exposing the company to massive litigation. "What are my options if I decline the offer?" I asked. Timothy paused. "Right now, SecureGrid is operating under an informal revocable licensing arrangement. Because there is no signed transfer of ownership, you have the legal right to terminate that license at any time. If you do, they cannot legally run your authentication code on their servers. Doing so would constitute patent infringement under federal law, specifically under Title 35 of the United States Code." I thanked Timothy and told him I would contact him after lunch. Before I went out, I decided to check our codebase access history. I opened the version control log and filtered the queries by Chloe's user credentials. What I found was alarming. Over the past 2 weeks, Chloe had downloaded the entire database schema, the repository history, and the complete documentation for my cryptographic algorithms. It was a systematic copying of my work. She had even shared the files with an external email address belonging to a consulting firm in Seattle. The logs showed that Chloe had been accessing the database under her administrator account late at night. She had run a script that packed all the configuration files and stored them in an external cloud storage bucket that was outside our corporate network. It was not a routine backup. The destination bucket belonged to a private account registered under her own name. She was actively copying my work, hoping they could replace me without losing the technology. They wanted to copy my work, force me out, and leave me with $12,000 while they sold the company. I walked to a sandwich shop near the Portland Harbor to clear my head. The cold rain was falling, misting against my jacket. I sat by the window, watching the ships on the river. I realized my loyalty to the company ended when Walter Higgins stepped down. The new management did not care about engineering excellence or respect. They only cared about extracting value. When I returned to the office at 2 in the afternoon, I saw Diana and Chloe in the conference room. They were presenting a slide deck to 3 external analysts from the private equity group that was evaluating SecureGrid. On the projection screen, Chloe was pointing to a diagram of our platform architecture. Below it, my name had been completely erased, replaced with a generic label that read Corporate Technical Asset Number 1. I walked back to my workstation, opened my private secure terminal, and began drafting my reply. I scheduled a meeting with Diana Miller for 2 in the afternoon on the following day. I wanted to give her one final opportunity to negotiate fairly. When I entered her office, she was on the phone, but she waved me in and pointed to the leather chair opposite her mahogany desk. Through the glass, I could see Chloe typing rapidly on her laptop. Deanna hung up the phone and looked at me, her face expressionless. "Daniel, I assume you have signed the agreement. We need to submit the final paperwork to the legal auditors by 5 today." I leaned forward. "I have reviewed the contract, Diana. The terms are unacceptable. $12,000 is not a serious offer for 4 patents that run the core of SecureGrid's platform. I want a fair market licensing fee, or I will not transfer the ownership." Deanna's eyes narrowed. She leaned back, folding her hands. "Let us be realistic, Daniel. You are an employee. The company owns your work. Our legal team is very confident that if this goes to court, we will establish full ownership of those patents under the terms of your employment contract. Fighting this will be extremely expensive for you. You will ruin your career in this city. No technology company will hire a developer who sues his employer." She paused, tapping a gold pen on the desk. "Little developers do not stand in the way of institutional capital, Daniel. The board and the private equity partners are completely aligned with my decisions." I kept my voice quiet. "The patents were filed 18 months before you arrived, using my own money and equipment. The law is very clear on this. I am not signing the contract." Deanna smiled, a cold, patronizing expression. "We will see about that, Daniel. I suggest you go back to your desk and think about your future. We are going to protect the company's assets one way or another." I left her office. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Timothy Cole. His voice was unusually tense. "Daniel, we have a major problem," Timothy said. "I was just checking the public registry at the United States Patent and Trademark Office. An assignment record was filed this morning for your patents. It shows a signed transfer agreement between you and SecureGrid Solutions, dated 3 weeks ago." My stomach twisted. "That is impossible. I have not signed anything. I have the draft agreement open on my screen right now." "I know," Timothy said. "I have downloaded the scanned PDF of the filing. I am emailing it to you now. Look at the signature page." I opened the file Timothy sent. There was my name written in what looked like my handwriting. But as I stared at it, I realized what they had done. The signature was identical to the one on my original tax forms from 4 years ago. It had been copied and digitally pasted onto the contract. It was a crude, desperate forgery. I could see the slight pixelation around the edges, and the resolution of the ink did not match the rest of the text. Chloe had even copied a tiny ink smudge on the letter D that was present on my old tax forms. This is a forgery, I told Timothy, my voice trembling with anger. Chloe had access to the human resources folders. She must have copied my signature from my employment records. Timothy sighed. This is a massive mistake on their part. Forgery is a serious criminal offense. In California, where their corporate holding company is registered, this violates California Penal Code Section 470. It is a felony. More importantly, under contract law, a forged agreement is void ab initio, which means it is completely void from the very beginning. They have no legal claim to your patents. What do we do now? I asked. Timothy's voice returned to its usual calm professional tone. I am drafting two documents right now. The first is a formal cease and desist notice for willful patent infringement under federal law, specifically Title 35 of the United States Code, Section 271. The second is a formal revocation of the informal licensing privilege. We will deliver both to Diana and the board of directors. He paused, then added, once we deliver these, you must disconnect their systems from your server. If they continue to run your authentication framework, they are committing federal patent infringement, with full knowledge that the transfer agreement was forged. The board will face personal liability. I looked at the code running on my monitor. The core authentication system was hosted on my private cloud servers, which I had paid for myself since the startup days. I had paid the hosting fees out of pocket for the last 48 months, amounting to $300 every single month, and the servers were physically located in a secure facility in Northern Oregon. SecureGrid only had access to it through an API gateway that authenticated using my private keys. I had never migrated the control keys to their servers because Walter Higgins had trusted me to manage the infrastructure. I called Timothy back. How fast can you file? I will have the notices ready by 10 tomorrow morning. I will send them via registered courier directly to Diana's office and to the board members. I sat back, feeling a quiet sense of control. The trap they had set for me had snapped shut on their own fingers. They had committed a felony to secure my intellectual property, and now they were going to present a forged asset during their investor presentation. I began preparing the script that would gracefully degrade the authentication gateway. I was not going to crash the servers. I was simply going to withdraw my keys, leaving their system unable to verify who was logging in. It was a clean, legal execution of my rights. On Wednesday morning, I arrived at the office early, around 7. The building was quiet, and only the security guards were downstairs. I logged into my workstation and did a final check of the script. It was designed to slowly throttle the API gateway connections rather than dropping them all at once. This would prevent the system from throwing immediate database crashes and instead simulate a slow, mysterious degradation of service. At 10 in the morning, I saw a courier walk into the main lobby carrying a stack of priority envelopes. He went up to the executive suite. A few minutes later, through the glass wall of the corporate office, I watched Diana Miller open one of the envelopes. She pulled out the documents. I could see her body language change instantly. Her shoulders went rigid, and she stood up from her desk, pacing back and forth. Within 2 minutes, Chloe rushed into her mother's office. They both stood near the window, staring at the pages of the cease and desist notice and the formal withdrawal of licensing privileges. Diana picked up her phone and dialed a number, her face flushed and angry. At 10:30, my office phone rang. It was Diana's executive assistant, Daniel. Diana needs you to join an emergency meeting in the executive boardroom immediately, she said, her voice sounding stressed. I kept my voice calm. I am sorry, but I am in the middle of preparing for the scheduled system maintenance that I announced yesterday. I cannot be interrupted right now. I hung up before she could reply. I knew they were calling their corporate lawyers, but Timothy Cole's filings were airtight. SecureGrid had filed a forged patent assignment with the Federal Registry, and using my software while in possession of a forged transfer agreement put the company in a position of direct willful patent infringement. Their lawyers would have told them that they had no legal defense. At 11 in the morning, I executed the script. On my screen, the terminal window showed the active connection keys being revoked one by one. The server in Northern Oregon stopped validating the secure tokens sent by SecureGrid's platform. The effect on the company's network was immediate but subtle. Users trying to log in were met with loading spinners that eventually timed out. The mobile application started showing authentication errors. Our external payment gateways could not verify transaction requests, and the system began to queue database calls that would never be processed. Within 20 minutes, the engineering channel on our messaging app erupted. Developers were posting screenshots of failing services. The customer support manager posted that the phone lines were lighting up with calls from angry clients. At 11:30, the heavy wooden door of the executive suite swung open. Diana Miller walked out, her face red with rage, her designer heels clicking loudly on the concrete floor. Chloe was walking right behind her, holding her tablet, her usual smug expression replaced by a look of sheer panic. They stopped right at my desk. Several other developers looked up from their cubicles, sensing the confrontation. "Daniel, what the hell are you doing to the system?" Diana demanded, her voice loud enough to echo in the open office. "The login server is failing, and the customer portal is completely down. Did you sabotage the code?" I looked up from my laptop, keeping my expression entirely calm. "I have not touched a single line of the company's code, Diana. I am simply exercising my legal rights. As of 10 this morning, you received a formal revocation of the informal licensing privilege for my 4 patents. My authentication framework is hosted on my private servers, and I have withdrawn the access keys. You are no longer authorized to use my technology." "This is illegal," Diana shouted. "You are destroying this company. We own those patents. We filed the transfer agreement." I stood up, looking down at Diana. "The transfer agreement you filed this morning contains a forged signature. Forging a legal document is a felony under California Penal Code, Section 470. My attorney has already notified the board of directors and the patent office. The agreement is void and your use of my software is unauthorized." Chloe stepped forward, her voice high and desperate. "Daniel, please. We can talk about this. We can renegotiate the terms of the agreement. Just turn the login gateway back on. The investors are coming tomorrow. We cannot have the platform down now." I met Chloe's eyes. "You told me to go back to your fantasy football games, boy. You said real business strategy should be left to people who understand it. I am taking your advice. I am no longer participating in the technical operations of Secure Grid." I shut my laptop, placed it in my backpack, and picked up my coat. Diana was staring at me, her mouth slightly open, while her phone buzzed in her hand. It was likely a board member calling about the legal notices they had just received. I walked toward the elevators. Behind me, the office was in absolute chaos. Developers were running back and forth, trying to access the authentication configuration, but they could not bypass the gateway, because the private keys were on my servers in Oregon. As the elevator doors closed, I heard one of the senior engineers telling Diana that they could not write a bypass, because the entire database structure depended on my encryption algorithms. They were completely locked out of their own system. I spent Wednesday afternoon at a quiet coffee shop forwarding Timothy Cole the logs showing Chloe's unauthorized copying of the codebase. Meanwhile, inside Secure Grid, Diana Miller was in panic mode. According to my contacts in the engineering department, she immediately hired a team of outside cybersecurity contractors. She authorized an emergency budget of $250,000 to bypass my authentication framework. They worked through the night, sleeping on the conference room floors, attempting to build a temporary login gateway that would work for the investor demo. On Thursday morning at 9, the live investor presentation began. I watched the stream from my apartment. Diana stood on the stage in front of 80 venture capitalists, corporate buyers, and technology journalists. She looked elegant and confident as she walked through the slide deck, presenting Chloe's strategy diagrams and boasting about the company's valuation. At 9:30, it was time for the live platform demonstration. Diana invited the members of the audience to log in using guest credentials they had printed on the brochures. The temporary gateway the contractors had built was a fragile patch. It could not handle 75 users trying to authenticate at the exact same moment. As soon as the audience hit the login button, the system failed. Loading wheels spun endlessly on the big screen. Database connection timeouts began to cascade through the logs. The entire platform became completely unresponsive. Diana tried to laugh it off, saying they were experiencing minor technical difficulties and would resume shortly. They never did. After 45 minutes of engineers typing frantically on stage, she was forced to end the presentation. When the demonstration failed, Diana and Chloe attempted to shift the blame onto the cybersecurity contractors. They claimed the contractors had introduced bugs into the system. But the head of the contracting firm was a seasoned systems engineer who had kept all the text messages and email threads. He immediately published the entire correspondence on a public developer forum, proving that Diana had forced them to push an untested, unstable gateway to production despite their explicit warnings. The public exposure was a secondary disaster for SecureGrid's public relations team. The board of directors called an emergency meeting on Friday morning. The legal team presented the cease and desist notices and the documentation of the forged signature. The board realized that if they attempted to defend Diana's actions, they would face federal patent infringement lawsuits and criminal investigations for forgery under California Penal Code, Section 470. During the emergency board meeting, Diana tried to maintain her defensive stance. She produced the paper copy of the forged licensing agreement, claiming that I was trying to extort the company. However, the board's chief legal officer was a sharp attorney who had already consulted with Timothy Cole. The attorney put the scanned USPTO filing on the overhead projector and compared the signature side by side with my official onboarding forms. The match was too perfect. Every stroke and ink smudge aligned down to the micrometer, a physical impossibility for two signatures written 4 years apart. The attorney warned the board that continuing to use the forged document would expose them to personal liability for securities fraud and criminal conspiracy. The chairman of the board was so furious that he threw the presentation binder across the executive table and demanded Diana's resignation on the spot. By Friday afternoon, Diana Miller was fired from her role as Chief Technology Officer. Chloe Miller was quietly let go from her analyst position without any public statement. The company's valuation dropped by 50% over the next week, falling from $40 million to $20 million. Two of our largest enterprise clients canceled their contracts, citing security concerns. Meanwhile, my phone did not stop ringing. Several venture capital firms that had seen the news reached out to me. Within a month, I signed non-exclusive licensing agreements for my patents with two of SecureGrid's primary competitors. I also secured $15 million in Series A funding to launch my own startup, SecureCore Technologies. The board of my new company consisted of experienced systems architects and respected legal advisors who understood the value of intellectual property. We focused on enterprise security solutions. Our first client was a major financial services firm, and our second was a national healthcare network. They valued the fact that our security was built on patented, legally clean technology that was managed by engineers, not consultants. We quickly expanded our engineering team, hiring senior developers who wanted to build reliable systems rather than participate in corporate politics. Within 5 months, SecureCore Technologies became profitable, proving that a company built on technical competence and respect for developers could succeed in a highly competitive market. 6 months later, SecureGrid Solutions was acquired by a larger technology firm for $6 million, which was exactly 30% of their former valuation. The acquiring company discarded their entire codebase and rebuilt their security using industry standards, realizing the old system was unsalvageable. Diana Miller returned to her consulting work, but her name was severely damaged in the tech sector. Chloe Miller left the technology industry entirely, taking a retail marketing job in Seattle. Looking back, the lesson is clear. Respect and technical competence cannot be faked, and they cannot be inherited. In an industry built on knowledge, dismissing the people who build the foundation is a mistake that compounds quickly. Competence is earned through results, not corporate rhetoric.